Hello dear winner! Today we'll check out 11 laws of systems thinking described by Peter Senge. Today's problems come from yesterday's solutions. Often to find causes of our problems we need to look at our own solutions to other past problems. For example, a new manager attacks high inventory costs and cuts them down, thinking he has resolved the problem. But the sales staff is now spending 20% more time responding to angry complaints of customers about late shipments. And the rest of time, sales staff tries to convince prospects that they can have any color of the product they want, as long as it's, let's say, black. Many solutions just move problems from one part of the system to the other, and they remain undetected because those who solved the first problem are not the people who inherited the new problems. The harder you push, the harder the system pushes back. When well-intentioned interventions evoke responses from the system that offsets the benefits of this intervention, it is called compensating feedback. All of us have experienced compensating feedback. The harder we pushed, the harder the system pushed back. The more effort we expended to improve matters, the more effort seemed to be required. Either as individuals or as companies, when our initial efforts fail to produce lasting improvements, we push harder, believing that hard work will overcome the obstacles and staying blind about our own contributions into creating those obstacles. Behavior grows better before it grows worse. Low leverage interventions and short-term solutions usually look good, but it's only during the delay, a gap between short-term benefit and long-term disbenefit, when compensating feedback comes along. A typical solution feels great when it first cures the symptom, and the problem may be gone for 2, 3, 4 years, but then a much worse problem arrives. The easy way out usually leads back in. It feels comfortable to apply familiar solutions using what we know best. But if everything was so easy and obvious, wouldn't someone discover that before us? Pushing harder on familiar solutions while fundamental problems persist or get worse is an indicator of non-systemic thinking. The cure can be worse than the disease. Easy and familiar solutions are not only ineffective, but also addictive and sometimes dangerous. The most insidious long-term consequence of non-systemic solution is an increased need for more solutions. Short-term improvements lead to long-term dependency and follow the shifting the burden archetype we are already familiar with. Faster is slower. Looking from the business growth perspective, the first thought is the faster the better. But we forget that everything from ecosystems to corporations have their own optimal rates of growth, which is much less than the fastest possible. Imagine cancer cells with their excessive growth. The system, in this case our organism, seeks to compensate it by slowing down or even shutting down. Cause and effect are not closely related in time and space. Cause is the interaction of an underlying system which generates symptoms. If we recognize them, they can lead us to lasting improvements. Effects are obvious symptoms indicating that there are problems. There's a fundamental mismatch between the nature of reality in complex systems and our predominant ways of thinking about the reality. The first step to correct this mismatch is to understand that cause and effect are distant in time and space. Small changes can produce big results, but areas of highest leverage are often the least obvious. The philosophy of systems thinking concludes that most obvious solutions don't work. However, small and well-focused actions can sometimes produce significant and enduring improvements if they are in the right place. That is called leverage. To solve a difficult problem, we need to see where high leverage lies. This leverage is the change which, with minimal effort, leads to lasting and significant improvement. Pity that high leverage changes are non-obvious to most participants of the system because cause and effect are distant in time and space. You can have your cake and eat it too, but not at once. Sometimes the most difficult dilemmas, when reviewed from the systems thinking perspective, are not dilemmas at all. They are artifacts of snapshot thinking instead of process thinking. Many of those apparent dilemmas are just byproducts of static thinking. They appear as rigid either-or choices because we think of what is possible at the fixed point of time. The real leverage lies in seeing how both can improve over time. Dividing an elephant in half does not produce two small elephants. The character of living systems depends on the whole, on their integrity. The same is true for companies. The whole system that generates issues has to be seen to understand the most challenging managerial issues. There's a principle of systems boundary, which means that interactions that must be examined are the most important to the issue at hand, regardless of local organizational boundaries. This principle is difficult because the companies are mostly designed to keep people from seeing the important interaction. It generates complicated problems where a leverage cannot be found because this leverage lies in the interactions which cannot be seen by looking at just one piece or one half of an elephant. There is no blame. It's a human tendency to blame someone else, but in terms of systems thinking, there is no separate other, because me, you, and someone else are parts of a single system. The wisest solution here is to make up and build a relationship with whom you are used to put blame on. Thanks for watching, dear winner. You can find more detailed information on these systems thinking laws in my previous posts, and take care.